Alright, this is a flipped classroom for Math 10C. We're going to solve systems of equations using elimination as the method. This is a new method to you. You've currently learned substitution and graphing, so this will be the third method you know on how to solve these things. Okay, first question we have here. You notice that at the bottom we have our step-by-step instructions on how to solve things through elimination. If you're reading these things through, we'll do them one at a time. So the first step says, make the coefficients on a variable of your choice equal. So if you look at this question, we have x's and we have y's. And what they're telling you is that you have to make either the x's the exact same amount or the y's the exact same amount. In this case, the y's are the exact same amount already, so we don't have to do anything for our first step. In the future, we will. We move on to second step. The second step says, add or subtract the equations. So, if you're deciding whether you want to add or subtract, you look at the numbers that are the same. So remember how we said the coefficients on our 7y were the same? Well, we look at those, and if the symbols are the opposite, then we want to add. So the top one is a positive, and the bottom one is a negative, meaning that we want to add these two equations. When we add the two equations, we make sure that everything's lined up. So the x's are one on top of the other, the y's are one on top of the other, the equal signs are one on top of the other, and then the constants are one on top of the other. It makes our adding and subtracting really easy. Alright, when we go to add, we draw a big sign underneath here. We draw an equal sign in line with the other equal sign. And we add our way through. So, 2x plus 3x equals 5x. Positive 7y minus 7y is 0, so nothing goes in here. They eliminate. That's why this is called elimination. And then 13 plus 2 is 15. So we have 5x equals 15. Step 3 says solve for a variable. And you'll notice that we have an equation now with just one variable, the variable x. So if we want to solve for x, we divide both sides by 5. X equals 3. So we've found our first variable. We found what x is. Step 4 tells us we need to substitute the value for the variable you found. So we need to substitute this thing we have right here. We need to substitute it into an original equation to solve for the other variables. So we need to substitute it into one of the equations. I'm going to substitute it to that one right there. So it's going to become 2 in brackets. 3, because instead of x, we're going to write 3, and plus 7y equals 13. 2 times 3, that's the same thing as saying 6. Now that we've made the substitution, we just need to get y all by itself, so we minus 6 for both sides. We get 7y equals 7. Divide both sides by 7, you get y equals 1, making your answer for this question 3, 1. Remember, our answers to these things are always coordinates, right? It's a point on a graph somewhere. It's just sometimes using different methods is quicker and easier to graph it. And in this case, elimination was a quite simple method to use rather than trying to graph those things. All right, we're going to do a few examples of this, so you can get used to it. So here we have another example. It says solve the following system by elimination. Well, the first step of elimination is making sure that one of the variables are the same. In this case, you notice we have 2x's and 2x's, so those are already the same. So we're already set up perfect. Again, we don't need to do anything for step 1. Step 2 is you need to choose whether you want to add or subtract the two equations. In this case, we're going to subtract the two equations because you notice that the 2x's are both positive 2x's. So since they're the exact same, we want to subtract. If they had been opposites, we would have added. We put a big equal sign underneath the two things. We notice that everything is in a line. So the x's are on top of each other, the y's are on top of each other, the equal signs are on top of each other, making a third equal sign. And the constants are on top of each other. And all we do is we go across. We have 2x minus 2x. That'd be 0. We go 6y minus 3y would equal 3y. It's a positive. 6 minus 4.5 is 1.5. That leaves you with a new equation, 3y equals 1.5. If we want to get this thing by itself, now we have to divide both sides by 3. So step 2 is going to be solve this thing. So solve for the one variable that's already by itself. If you put that in your calculator, you should get that y equals 0.5. Perfect. We figured out what y is. Now we need to figure what x is. To figure what x is, we take that answer and we substitute it back into one of our equations. So this one, I'm going to sub it to the top, so it becomes 2x plus 6 times 0.5 equals 6. That simplifies to be 2x plus 3 equals 6. 6 times 0.5 is just 3. If I want to get x by myself, I'm minus 3 from both sides. So 2x equals 3. I divide both sides by 2. X equals 3 over 2, meaning that my point is 3 over 2, comma, 0.5. That's substitute, or that's solving through elimination. All right, we got two more practice problems here. This one is the first time that we have to figure out something for step 1. So step 1 says choose a variable and make sure they're the same. If I look at my x's, I notice that they're not the same. If I look at my y's, I notice they're not the same. So that means I need to force one of them to be the same. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that the x's are the same. So I want to somehow turn this 5x and this 3x into the same number of x's. To do that, I want to find their lowest common multiple. So the lowest common multiple between 5 and 3 would be 15, because 5 times 3 is 15. So I need to find a way to create both of these things to become the number 15. So I'm going to times by 3 on this one. I need to times everything by 3. You do the one thing, you do them all. On the other equation, if I want to turn this 3x into 15x, I need to times by 5. And you'll notice that most of the time it works out pretty well, that you can just take the number. So if I had 5x on this one, I know I have to multiply the other one by 5. If I have 3x on the one on the right, that means I have to multiply the one on the left by 3. It usually works out that way. All right, this gives me new equations. So when I multiply this one, I get 15x plus 9y equals 9. And if I do with this one, I get 15x minus 35y equals, so I have to do 81 times 5. Equals 405. Awesome. Now I have two equations where one of the variables is the exact same, like 15x's, they're the exact same. Now you'll notice if you look at our question now, and you look at the ones before, they wrote theirs one on top of the other, where ours is not written that way. So I need to adjust it and write them one on top of the other. So instead of writing it separate, I'm going to now put them one on top of the other one. It just makes it much easier. Ooh, that says 35y. Okay, I have figured out one of the variables to be the same, so my x's are the same. I've written them one on top of the other, and they're all in a row. So my x's are on top of my x's, my y's are on top of my y's, my equals are on top of my equals, and my constants are on top of my constants. Now, I need to decide whether I want to add or subtract these things. I'm going to subtract these things because the 15x's are both positive. Because they're the exact same, I want to subtract. If they had been opposites, if one of them had been positive, one of them had been negative, then I would have added. Alright, this equal sign, I don't want to forget it, so I write it out. And then I just go across and I figure it out. 15x minus 15x is 0x. 9y minus negative 35y. When you're minusing a negative, it's like adding. So this is really like saying 9y plus 35y. So we have 44y's. And then we have 9 minus 405 would be negative 396. We're going to just rewrite this out so it's a little neater. So we have 44y equals negative 396. If I want to figure out what y is, then I need to divide both sides by 44. So divide by 44, divide by 44. And you should get that 396 divided by 44, y equals 9. Once you figure out the first one, you take your answer, and we take that thing, and we substitute it back into one of our original equations. I'm going to sub it in right there. So that gives me 5x plus 3. And instead of y, I'm going to put 9. It's negative 9, isn't it? Yeah, sorry, it's negative 9. Negative 9 equals 3. That simplifies to be 5x minus 27 equals 3. You add 27 to both sides. We get 5x equals 30. Divide both sides by 5. You get x equals 6, meaning that our coordinate is 6, comma, negative 9. It's that easy. Alright, our last one. So, again, we're going to follow the same steps as before. The very first step is make sure that you have the same number of one of the variables. So if I'm looking at my x's, and I notice I have 2x and 3x, so those aren't the same. So I look at my y's, I notice I have 4y and 6y, and those aren't the same. So I have to choose whether I want to make the x's all the same or the y's all the same. I'm going to choose the x's to be all the same. No particular reason, I'm just choosing the x's. If you chose to make the y's the same, that would work too. Alright, to make the x's the same, I need to figure out the lowest common multiple between 3x and 2x. The lowest common multiple would be 6. So to get to 6, I have to times this one by 3. And times this one by 2. And you can multiply that 0 by 2 as well, but 0 times 2 is still 0, so I'm not even going to write it down. That gives me 6x equals 12y plus 30. This one is 0 equals 6x plus 12y plus 2. Now you'll notice here that something is different. We have to write these things one on top of the other one. But when you do that, you also want it to be in the same order. So if you notice the one on the left, the x's are on the left side of the equal sign. Or on this one, these x's are on the right side of the equal sign. Whenever you're using elimination, they have to be on the same side as each other before you start eliminating variables. So what I need to do is I need to move that 6x to the other side of the equation. And to do that, I need to minus 6x from both sides. So I have negative 6x equals 12y plus 2. Now these things are in the exact same order as each other. And since they're in the same order as each other, I can write them one on top of each other, just like that. But I couldn't do that until I'd written them one on top of each other, and in the exact same order. That can be the trickiest part of elimination, is making sure all the x's are in a straight line, the equal signs are in a straight line, the y's are in a straight line, and the constants are in a straight line. Now I have to decide whether I want to add or subtract these things. I'm going to add these things because the symbols are opposite, right? These things are opposite of each other. One of them's positive and one of them's negative. If they're opposite, you add. 6x plus negative 6x is 0. 12y plus another 12y is 24y. 30 plus 2 is plus 32. Now we have an equation with just one variable, right? The x's have been eliminated. That means we did a good job. And now we have to get the y's to be by themselves. So I have 0 equals 24y plus 32. I need to subtract 32 from both sides. And I get negative 32 equals 24y. I need to divide both sides by 24. And when I do that, you're going to put 32 divided by 24 in your calculator. And you're going to get 1.333333. Remember, we're going to write that as a fraction. So you're going to go math frac on that thing. And you're going to have negative 4 over 3 equals y. All right, once you have an answer, you can take that answer for one letter, and you can substitute it back into an original equation. I'm going to substitute it into that first one. So now I have 2x equals 4, and then in brackets, negative 4 over 3, and then it's plus 10. The stuff on the right, you can put all in your calculator. So you're going to have 2x, and if you put all that stuff in your calculator and then math frac it, because that's what you're going to want to do. So math frac, you should get that 2x equals 14 over 3. So that 14 over 3 comes from putting all of this into my calculator and then hitting math frac. Then I divide both sides by 2. Again, I put that in my calculator and I math frac it. And I get x equals 7 over 3. Meaning that my solution is 7 over 3, comma, negative 4 over 3. And that is elimination. You might want to rewind, watch certain parts of this video again. It can be kind of confusing the first time through. Sometimes the second time through makes it a little more clear. Remember, you're going to come to class, you're going to get the entire period to work and practice your elimination method, and then you can ask any questions you need. All right, see you soon.